will be covered today in China Undercover. You find our information helpful, please subscribe and turn on the notification. It will help us get more motivation to produce more quality videos. Now back to the news. Throughout its history, China has constantly sought ways to harness and control its rivers, aiming to utilize their power while mitigating the devastating effects of floods. This endeavor has resulted in the creation of thousands of dams, channels, and levees. With an estimated count of nearly 90,000, these dams serve various purposes, from flood control to irrigation, river navigation, and electricity generation. The Three Gorges Dam is just one of these many dams situated along the Yangtze River, but it stands out as the most renowned. The name of this project is derived from its location near the Three Gorges area, surrounded by three mountains. While the Chinese government vehemently denies these reports, some believe that the government may be concealing information. Supporters of this theory point to satellite images from Google Maps and online searches as evidence that the Three Gorges Dam is indeed undergoing changes, suggesting vulnerability. Nevertheless, the Chinese government maintains that these images are inaccurate. However, there is a call for comprehensive tests to determine the potential consequences if the Three Gorges Dam were to rupture. Now let's turn the question around. Is the Three Gorges Dam safe? To answer this, we must examine specific examples of China's recent broken dams, as some typhoons have spread main China in a quite odd way. Firstly, Typhoon Haikwai made landfall in Fujian and Guangdong provinces within a span of 2 hours, causing significant impacts in both areas. Torrential rains and water discharges from dams led to widespread flooding, crippling the urban drainage system and turning streets into rivers. The persistent rainfall and flooding, exacerbated by the recurring failure of the urban drainage system during such events, have transformed the entire county of Fujian into a vast expanse of water. The swiftly moving floodwaters pose a significant danger, submerging many cars and motorcycles and sweeping them away. The Fuzhou Meteorological Bureau reported that the typhoon brought short but intense rainfall compared to the previous typhoon Dokshiri. According to CCTV News on September 6, the Fuzhou Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters revealed that 49 out of 420 reservoirs in the city exceeded their flood limit levels. Bodies of water, including Macy Lake, Tejiang Brook, and Owl River, exceeded warning levels. Over 80 locations in the urban area experienced flooding, with 12 underpasses submerged with a maximum water depth of 1.4 meters on the roads and nearly 4 meters in the underpasses. As of the morning of September 6, 147 townships were affected, impacting a total of over 51,000 individuals, with over 36,000 people urgently relocated. 63 residential complexes in the urban area were severely inundated, along with 44 residential complex underground garages and 16 urban villages. Farmland amounting to almost 4,200 hectares was flooded, resulting in 170 road and bridge damages, 919 houses being damaged, 67 houses collapsing, 125 power lines down, and 85 kilometers of communication lines and 21 communication bases damaged. The direct economic loss amounted to 552 million yuan. During and after every typhoon period, there are instances of heavy rain and flooding causing significant losses to the local population. Moreover, the release of water from reservoirs has become routine during heavy rains, exacerbating the impact of local flood disasters. In the wake of Typhoon Haikwai, reports indicate that out of 420 reservoirs in Fuzhou, 49 exceeded the flood limit levels, necessitating water releases. Zongyang Reservoir in Fujian County was one such reservoir that had to release water, starting from 6 p.m. on September 5th. Subsequently, the local government issued another notice for water release on September 6th. This large-scale water release in the middle reaches of the Longjiang River brought greater flood discharge pressure, affecting residents on both banks who had to face the onslaught of floods once again. It's well known that the original intention of reservoir construction was not only for irrigation and hydroelectric power generation, but also for flood storage to mitigate the effects of flood disasters. However, many reservoirs in China have become dangerous due to years of disrepair, necessitating frequent water releases during severe floods. This primarily stems from the fact that most of China's reservoirs were constructed during the Great Leap Forward period. In the late 1950s, under the slogan of building socialism more quickly, better, and more economically. Many reservoirs were constructed without regard for scientific and natural laws, often completed in half or even a third of the originally planned time, resulting in numerous shoddy projects. Some of these poorly constructed reservoirs can still function normally after multiple repairs and reconstructions, but a large number of them have become hazardous due to years of neglect, unable to withstand the impact of floods and failing in their flood control role. Therefore, emergency discharges are required to prevent the dams from bursting each time heavy rains occur. Most of these reservoirs are managed by government agencies, and responsible managers notify the public ahead of time. However, some irresponsible ones discharge water stealthily. For instance, the recent flood discharge from the Dongyang Reservoir, a large reservoir constructed during the Great Leap Forward, serves as an example. This reservoir, spanning an area 15 square kilometers, had a normal storage capacity of 185 million cubic meters. It featured a reinforced concrete wide-joint gravity dam with a height of 38 meters. To show that the reservoir, which started construction in November 1957 and was initially said to be completed in 3 years, was finished in just 1 year and 1 month, put into use in December 1958. It experienced dangers during Typhoon No. 8 in 1960, with significant displacement occurring at dam section 8 due to flood impact. This was followed by abnormal pressure changes, and various canal sections and structures couldn't handle the designed flow. Numerous wooden aqueducts were destroyed by the floods. The segments of canal structures were all wooden laminated beams, which were inconvenient to manage, among other issues. Furthermore, landslides and leaks frequently occurred in the rainy season due to deep excavation of canals and the hanging of slopes beside mountains. Subsequently, from 1961 to 1966, large-scale reinforcement and expansion projects were carried out on the reservoir. Following several renovations in 1979 to address the leakage issue, a project to stone-line the main and branch canals commenced, initially planned in 3 phases. However, the second and third phases were never initiated due to the large investments, labor-intensive work, and the inability to fundamentally solve the leakage problem. No information is available regarding further reinforcements or renovations thereafter. It's not hard to imagine the current, desolate state of this 65-year-old reservoir built on such a poor foundation. Thus, frequent flood discharges during heavy rain are not surprising. A flood discharge from the Dongyang Reservoir in Fujing will affect downstream areas. But fortunately, the local government issued a discharge notice, allowing residents to take precautions. However, this is not always the case. Recently, netizens revealed that during Typhoon Perilous' assault on Guangdong, several local reservoirs discharged water without warning late at night, leading to flooding in some areas. This replicated the previous flooding scenario in Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. On the social media platform X, users reported that on the night of September 2nd, the loading reservoir in Guangdong began discharging water with all 5 gates opened. The water flowed into surrounding villages, and residents were heard exclaiming disaster. The reservoir's water release caused massive flooding in residential underground parking lots, with cars submerged at exits and electric bikes washed away. Flood levels exceeded the capacity of urban infrastructure, forcing residents into a hopeless situation. Videos showed floodwaters reaching the 3rd floor in Yinfu, Guangdong, with many people struggling to walk and evacuate in waist-deep water. Several vehicles were submerged or washed away. From late July to early August, continuous heavy rains in Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei caused widespread flooding in northern regions. To protect Beijing and Xi'an in Hebei, several reservoirs around Beijing discharged water without warning on July 30th and 31st. This led to millions of residents in floodwater-designated areas, such as Gyeobidian, being trapped due to the sudden water discharge. This resulted in power outages, food shortages, communication breakdowns, and some areas in Xi'an still being submerged, with residents struggling to survive under extremely difficult conditions. Come back to the Three Gorges Dam. Supporters of the dam argued that it would help control flooding on both sides of the river, boost commerce, and provide electricity to many regions in China. Conversely, opponents raised concerns about the risk of dam failure and its catastrophic consequences. They also worried about the displacement of millions of people during construction and the destruction of natural landscapes, historical sites, and archaeological structures. Does the Three Gorges Dam have the capability to withstand nuclear attacks from China? It should be pointed out that the power of nuclear bombs far exceeds the scope of natural disasters, and its destructive power is extremely high. It will be severely damaged, leading to the breach of the reservoir and the rapid release of floodwaters. This will trigger larger-scale destruction and disaster, posing a huge threat to residents and infrastructure in surrounding areas. Bertus Mekor, a researcher at a German applied science university, stated that in 1988, Chairman Xi'an had some initial considerations about building a dam on the Yangtze River to tame it in the mountainous areas. However, this plan was abandoned due to the high construction costs. In the late 1980s, the idea resurfaced as China was facing a severe energy shortage. Currently, it seems that China is benefiting greatly from this dam, with the people rather than the government reaping the most benefits. This is because the energy generated by the Three Gorges Dam is vital, providing 1/3 of China's energy needs, acting as a crucial lifeline for a country with a population of over 1.4 billion. In addition to energy, the Three Gorges Dam is believed to protect millions of people living in low-lying areas from the floods of the Yangtze River. Despite the many positive effects of the dam, there are also negative aspects. Critics are concerned about the possibility of earthquakes due to the significant changes in water pressure. There are also warnings about the potential catastrophic failure of the massive reservoir dam, causing devastating tsunamis. Hydroelectric dam projects often worsen the environment, as seen in the planned or ongoing dam projects in Egypt's Nile River. According to geologists, small landslides have appeared along the reservoir, and there are likely to be both small and large events unprecedented in the past. According to Xinhua news agency, the Beijing government acknowledged some issues with the Three Gorges Dam in a report, which are becoming increasingly apparent. Solutions to these issues must be found after the dam has been put into operation. Some experts have identified these problems, but they could not be effectively addressed at the time due to limitations. We cannot foresee the new issues that will arise as economic development takes precedence. Therefore, in addition to the economic success brought about by the dam, Chinese leaders need to continue taking action to address the problems caused by its construction. This includes providing adequate resettlement for displaced citizens and protecting the environment in the region, as well as implementing disaster prevention measures. China aims to mitigate the adverse effects of dam construction on water transportation and water supply in the upstream and downstream areas of the Yangtze River, as well as ecosystem destruction through other improvements. The millions of people who were relocated from 20 cities to the surrounding areas of the Three Gorges Dam were promised an improved standard of living. However, the Chinese government is facing growing dissatisfaction, especially in the middle and lower reaches of the river, where residents believe they are victims of the Three Gorges Dam. Many historical archaeological sites have been submerged, and the dam obstructs the transportation of silt from the mountains to the Yangtze floodplain. This disruption has had a significant impact on the ecological stability of the floodplain, according to experts. The Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric dam on the Yangtze River, was designed as a gravity dam to increase its stability and resistance to nuclear attacks. It is believed that the dam would not collapse even after a major attack. However, some nuclear experts previously argued that national security was not a concern during the design of the Three Gorges Dam. In 2016, China successfully installed a key component of its fourth-generation nuclear power plant in Shandong province. This fourth-generation nuclear power plant has a high-pressure vessel that weighs 600 tons and is 25 meters tall. and safely shut down in emergencies without causing core meltdown or large radioactive leaks. This successful installation marked a significant step in Beijing's goal to build 6 to 8 nuclear reactors each year in its 13th five-year plan. Most of China's nuclear power plants are located in coastal provinces, including Guangdong, Fujian, and northeastern Jiangsu. Beijing rejected proposals to build nuclear power plants in deep inland locations, including those along the Dan River in South Hubei and the Yangtze River basin. After the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan in March 2011, scholars expressed concerns about the safety of inland nuclear projects in China. The significance of these projects to the Three Gorges project. Some scholars argued that the designs of the Three Gorges Dam did not consider the possibility of it being attacked with weapons, and constructing nuclear plants along the Yangtze River was an unsafe action. What would happen if the Three Gorges Dam were to break? Is that the same as the fate of other recent reservoirs? It requires a test of time. If you found this story intriguing, please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share it. And that is today's episode. If you found this video informative, please subscribe and ring a bell to get notification. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.